My wife lied for 8 years and lived with her affair partner's family. I have his wife's number and don't know if I should tell her. I'm hoping someone out there, maybe someone older, wiser, or just with a bit more clarity than I have right now, can help me figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do next. We've been together for 14 years. Married for 12. I met her in high school. She was the quiet one with ink stains on her hands, always tucked into the corner of the library with a book too heavy for her lap. I was the overly confident kid with big dreams and no clue what I was doing.
She grounded me.
I lit her up. We were opposites, but something about it just clicked. We became each other's firsts, first loves, first heartbreaks, first everythings. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who'd end up with his high school sweetheart, but we grew together, slowly and deliberately, through college, early adulthood, our careers. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. We even believed it most days. She's brilliant, sharp, witty, introverted to the point that most people misread her as cold. But I always saw the warmth behind her walls. She's a literary manager and translator. Words are her world. Mine used to be business. I started a small company in my mid-20s and poured myself into it like it was oxygen. Long nights, skipped meals, pushing myself so hard I started forgetting what I was doing it all for. I told myself it was for us, for a future that would be more stable, more secure. But I know now that I was slowly disappearing from the relationship while trying to build a better one. The decline didn't happen overnight. 7 years ago, things got bad. Really bad. I was toxic, not in the abusive sense, but in the neglectful one. I didn't pull my weight at home, didn't ask how she was really doing, didn't listen when she tried to drop hints that she was drowning. I assumed silence meant she was fine. I thought my loyalty and presence were enough. Then came the tragedy. I won't go into the details, not because I want to be cryptic, but because even now it's a jagged wound I can't touch. It tore through both of us, but it shredded her more deeply. I shut down in my own way, retreating into work like it was armor. She withdrew into herself, into books, into silence. She stopped wanting to talk. I didn't push. I told myself I was giving her space, being respectful. In truth, I was afraid. Afraid I'd say the wrong thing. Afraid I wasn't strong enough to carry her pain. Afraid to face what our life had become. Somewhere in that chasm of grief and disconnection, she met someone else. He was a writer. She translated his novel into our language. I didn't think much of it at first. She's always had writer friends, people she corresponded with about work. But what started as professional slowly morphed into something else. They met at a book fair in another city, started messaging back and forth. From what I've pieced together, they began talking almost daily. Sometimes for hours. Late into the night. About everything, books, trauma, life, probably even about me. I was so caught up in my own spiral that I didn't notice. Not really. I saw the signs, the way she started staying up later, how she suddenly locked her phone when she never used to. But I chalked it up to work stress. She was still coming home every night. She still wore her wedding ring. I didn't think I needed to worry. Then came my birthday. She brought it up a few weeks in advance. Said she had a plan. She wanted us to travel abroad for a Comic-Con, something we both used to love doing together, back when life was lighter. The twist was, she wanted to bring her friend along. A woman I'd never clicked with, someone who'd always seemed like more of a drinking buddy than a confidant. The idea didn't sit right with me. I didn't want to share my birthday. I wanted a day for just us. We hadn't had that in years. I told her that, calmly, respectfully. I said that this day, if any, should be about reconnecting, about remembering why we fell in love. I thought she'd understand. Instead, she pushed back. Said I was being controlling, that I was trying to isolate her, that I always made everything about me. We fought. Not screaming, not throwing things, just that cold, brittle kind of fight where every word feels like it's slicing skin. She insisted on going without me. Said it was already planned, tickets booked. Her tone wasn't apologetic. It was distant, like she'd already made up her mind. I stayed home. On the day of my birthday, I woke up to silence. No breakfast in bed, no handwritten note, not even a damn phone call. Just a dry text sometime mid-morning. Happy birthday. Hope you have a good one. I stared at it for a long time, like it might change if I blinked hard enough. It didn't. The rest of the day was a blur. I tried to distract myself, worked out, went for a walk, stared at the wall. Ordered takeout, and couldn't even taste it. At around 10 p.m., she finally called. I didn't answer. I watched the phone buzz until it stopped. She didn't leave a voicemail. That night I lay awake thinking about everything. about the way her voice had stopped sounding like home, about the long conversations with a man I'd never met, about how a day that should have been a celebration of the life we built turned into proof of how far we'd drifted. The emotional affair didn't come fully to light until months later. She never confessed it outright, but pieces slipped through. I found messages. I confronted her. She denied it had gone that far. Said it was just talking, that she needed someone who could understand her pain, someone who didn't try to fix everything all the time. Asked her why she didn't turn to me. She didn't have an answer. I didn't leave. I probably should have. But I still loved her. I still do. And I told myself that people make mistakes, that grief changes people, that maybe, just maybe, this was survivable. We've spent the last several years trying to rebuild. We went to couples therapy, took small trips, tried to be more intentional. Some days it feels like we're back on solid ground. Other days, I wonder if I'm just clinging to a version of her that doesn't exist anymore. I know I wasn't a perfect husband. I know I failed her in some fundamental ways during those dark years. But part of me still can't let go of the image of her, on my birthday, walking through some foreign city with someone else's words in her ears, while I sat alone at home wondering if I even mattered anymore. What I don't know is whether this marriage can be saved. Whether we should keep trying. We've built a whole life together. Years, memories, a home. We share routines, mutual friends, even the same damn bookshelves. But I can't ignore that somewhere along the line, she stopped choosing me. And now I'm stuck in this weird emotional purgatory. I still see glimmers of the woman I married. She still reaches for my hand sometimes in bed. Still laughs at my dumb jokes. But the betrayal, even if it wasn't physical, still lives in me like a ghost I can't exorcise. Something always felt off about that trip. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was this knot in my stomach that just wouldn't go away the whole time she was gone. You know that feeling when something's wrong and your body knows it before your brain does? That was me 3 days of walking around the house pretending to be fine, while my gut screamed at me that something wasn't right. I tried to talk myself out of it. Told myself I was being paranoid. She's never given me a reason not to trust her before, not really. But the way she'd fought me about the trip, the coldness on my birthday, the silence that stretched out like a chasm between us, it just didn't add up. And then there was that damn friend of hers, the one she brought along as her supposed travel buddy. I always had a bad feeling about her. Something just didn't sit right. When she got back, she acted like nothing happened, gave me a quick kiss, asked how my weekend was. I nodded, said it was fine, but inside, I was still churning. That night, long after she fell asleep beside me, I gave in to the anxiety and did something I'm not proud of. I took her phone. I'd never done that before. Not once in our entire relationship. I always believed trust was sacred. But at that moment, I felt like I was drowning, and her phone was the only life raft I had. What I found confirmed every awful suspicion I didn't want to believe. The messages were still there, text after text to her affair partner. From what I could piece together, the whole trip had been a cover. The Comic-Con? A half-day detour at best. The real itinerary was spending those 3 days with him. His city. His social group. Morning until late at night. There wasn't anything explicitly sexual in the messages. No, I want you. No, last night was amazing. But there were things. Things that twisted in my gut and made my heart drop like a stone. Flirty texts, emojis, kissy faces, hearts, playful innuendos. Lines like, hugging you, or love you, you're too awesome. It was all done in this ironic, joking tone, like they were trying to hide behind the mask of humor. But it wasn't funny. Not to me. Not when I was sitting alone on my birthday, waiting for her call. And it wasn't just the content, it was the secrecy, the lying, the passwords, the sneaking. That's what made it an affair, even if no clothes ever came off. She was sharing parts of herself with him, parts she'd stopped sharing with me. I took screenshots. My hands were shaking the whole time. My mouth was dry, like I'd swallowed a bucket of sand. I sat there in the dark until the sun started coming up, watching her sleep, and wondering how the hell we got here. When she woke up, I didn't wait. I didn't ease into it. I just looked her in the eye and said I wanted a divorce. She froze. Didn't even ask why at first. She just stared at me like I'd slapped her across the face. When I showed her the texts, she crumbled. She broke down crying, swearing it was just friendship. Said she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was just lost and needed someone to talk to. That she was sorry. That she'd end it. And, God help me, I believed her. I wanted to believe her. I needed to. Because the alternative, that the woman I'd loved since I was 17 had replaced me in her heart, was too painful to face. So I forgave her. We cried together. We had long, painful conversations. She deleted his contact, promised me it was over. She even looked me in the eye and swore that she wanted to rebuild what we had. I clung to that hope like a man stranded at sea clings to driftwood. And it lasted maybe 2 months. She reinstalled WhatsApp. Password protected it. Changed the settings so no notifications would show up on her lock screen. And then, like nothing had happened, she started talking to him again. I found out the same way. Late at night. Phone on the charger. She'd fallen asleep. And there they were, new texts. This time, a little tamer. Less flirty. Less obvious. But it was him. And it was still behind my back. I didn't say anything. I don't know why, honestly. Maybe I was scared that if I pushed again, she'd leave. Maybe I was exhausted. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I told myself they were just friends now. That maybe after the first fallout, they dialed it back. That I should be the bigger person. I gaslit myself. That's the part one hates the most. That I knew, deep down, that this was wrong, and still, I let it slide. A few months later, she told me she was going to that city again. This time, she was bringing her mother. Said it was just for a change of scenery. That she needed a break. I didn't fight her on it. I didn't even ask. Part of me thought, okay, her mother is going. That's a built-in handbrake. I figured there's no way she'd cross the line again. Not in front of her own mom. And besides, she said they were just meeting up briefly, just friends catching up. Later, I found out she had not only met him again, but also his family. His wife. His kids. She went to dinner with them. Hung out in their home. That detail, that she met the wife, messed with my head more than anything else. It made me second-guess everything. I thought, would she do that if it was romantic? Would he let her if it wasn't above board? I wanted so badly to believe the best in her. That maybe they'd skirted the edge of something inappropriate and then pulled back. That maybe they had started slipping towards something more, but realized it was a mistake. And now it was just friendship again. But deep down I knew better. Because it wasn't just about him. It was about us. About the fact that she was hiding things. About the fact that I wasn't the person she turned to when she had something to share or something to say. It was about how she looked at her phone with a small smile when she thought I wasn't watching. It was about the silence between us that used to be comfortable, but now felt like a wall I couldn't climb. It wasn't physical. I don't think. I have no proof. But it was betrayal. It was a betrayal of trust, of loyalty, of the promise to choose each other every day. And I let it happen. I watched it unfold in slow motion and convinced myself that it wasn't what it clearly was. All because I loved her. Because I'd built a life around her. Because the thought of being without her felt like walking off a cliff into the unknown. I wish I could end this story with a clean answer. With a decision made. But I haven't made one. Not yet. I'm still here. Still trying to decide whether the woman lying next to me at night is someone I can trust again, or just someone I used to know. Fast forward 3.5 years. By that point, our lives were unrecognizable from what they used to be. We had a child together, a beautiful, bright little soul, and my wife was pregnant with our second. She had always dreamed of being a mother, always said she wanted a big family. And I wanted that too, or at least I thought I did. But now that it was real, everything felt hollow. There was no intimacy between us anymore. Our life had become almost non-existent. It wasn't about postpartum recovery or physical exhaustion anymore. It was something deeper, something broken. Her libido was practically non-existent, and emotionally, we were miles apart. We tried, I won't lie. We showed up for the logistics of life, shared responsibilities, doctor appointments, groceries, bedtime stories, but emotionally, we were cold. She stopped looking at me the way she used to. I stopped reaching out the way I used to. It felt like we were playing house, like roommates bound by duty instead of love. Then the war broke out. I don't need to say which one. You already know. My country was burning. Chaos, destruction, fear. I felt all of it flood through my veins. But weirdly, it also brought clarity. I needed to protect something. If not my marriage, then my home, my people. I signed up, volunteered for military service. I couldn't sit by and do nothing. She didn't argue. She didn't protest. She just packed up our child and fled to a neighboring country, the one where her affair partner lived, conveniently enough. She knew the language, had connections there. It made sense on paper. But deep down, Something in me cracked. She didn't wait long. She was gone with our kid, across the border, and I was left in a uniform with a rifle and too much time to think. The next 3 years passed in a strange fog. Brutality. Camaraderie. Loss. You see and experience things in war that fundamentally change you. But the loneliness, that's what haunted me the most. I went months without a real conversation with my wife. She messaged, sure, texts here and there, the occasional photo of the kids, but calls were rare. When I asked why, she'd say she didn't want to distract me or that she didn't want to pile more stress on my shoulders. Said it was hard raising 2 kids alone and working 2 jobs. That she barely had time to breathe. Maybe that was true. But I also knew how wives react when their husbands return from combat. I'd seen it firsthand. The way some women ran, barefoot, across concrete just to wrap their arms around the men they missed. I'd seen hugs that lasted minutes, lips that couldn't stop finding each other, tears of pure relief. When I saw her again for the first time in months, she gave me a brief hug and an awkward smile. Like I was someone she used to know. I visited 3 times over the course of those years. We had 2 weeks of leave a couple times a year, if command approved. I always used mine to see her and the kids. And every time it was the same. On the surface, things seemed normal. We played with the kids, cooked dinner together, watched TV. You'd never guess we'd been apart so long. But underneath it was hollow. There was no warmth, no desire. She barely touched me, like I was a coworker she didn't particularly like. Before my last visit, she didn't even call me for an entire month. Just sent a few texts, routine stuff. No, I miss you. No, I can't wait to see you. Nothing. I considered canceling the trip. I told myself we were done, that I'd be better off staying on base. But something pulled me back, some leftover thread from the man I used to be. So I went. I'll never forget how it felt to walk into that small apartment. The kids ran to me, full of love and noise and laughter. But she barely made eye contact. She was polite, cordial, going through the motions. That first night, I watched her fall asleep clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. I don't think she even realized she was doing it, fingers curled around it under the blanket, as if she couldn't bear to be parted from whatever was on it. The next night was the same. That's when I finally asked. I waited until the kids were asleep, and we were alone in the living room. I looked her straight in the eye and asked if she was seeing him again. She didn't flinch, not really. Just sighed and looked away. She said they'd met only once since she moved, at a book fair, by accident. But her details were all over the place. She couldn't tell me which month it was. She got names and places mixed up. I knew that tone, that scattered look in her eyes. She was lying. Again. So I told her to show me the chat. She hesitated, then unlocked her phone. Scrolled. Opened the messages. What I saw made my stomach turn. They'd met at least 6 times. That wasn't the coincidence. That wasn't running into someone. That was intentional. She'd invited him over to her house. One message stood out. He asked her if anyone would be around like a nanny, and she said no. He wanted to know if they'd be alone. She told him they would. There was no way to misinterpret that. I kept reading. It wasn't sexual, exactly. But it didn't need to be. The secrecy, the frequency, the way she texted him like he was her safe place, it told me everything. I lost it. Not by yelling. I was too tired for that. Too worn down by war and betrayal and years of pretending. I just told her it had to end. That this time, there were no second chances. I asked her, begged her, to tell me the truth. She cried. Said it was nothing. That they never did anything physical. That he wasn't even attractive to her. That he was just a friend who helped her navigate a foreign country when she had no one else. That she was overwhelmed and alone and leaned on someone familiar. And I wanted to scream, what about me? I was sleeping in bomb shelters. I was dodging artillery fire. I was seeing friends bleed out in trenches. And she was drinking tea with the man who once tried to steal her away from me. I didn't scream. I just sat there and stared at her. She deleted everything, his number, the chats, the photos. Swore it was over. Told me she'd come home, bring the kids back even though she was scared. Said she'd try to make things work. And here's the worst part. I believed her. Not because she earned it. Not because I truly trusted her. But because I needed to. Because after everything I'd seen and lost, I couldn't let go of one more thing. Not yet. So I nodded. I said okay. I kissed her forehead and tucked my kids into bed that night with a forced smile on my face. But something deep in me stayed quiet and cold. Like part of me already knew. This was the end. Even if we hadn't said it out loud yet. We've been on and off since then. After that final confrontation, when she swore she'd cut him off and deleted everything, she made efforts, on the surface, at least. She came back to see me 3 times over the span of a few months. Each visit was short, just a weekend, but she was affectionate. Strangely so. She kissed me the way she hadn't in years. Touched my face like it meant something. Slept close, curled into me like she'd missed me every day we were apart. For a while I let myself believe. It was easy to fall into that. You want so badly to feel normal again, to feel loved, to feel like maybe the hell you went through meant something. That you were fighting for something real. So when she came to visit and looked at me like I mattered, I clung to it. After the second visit, just before she left, she handed me her old phone. Said it was intentional. Said it was a symbol of transparency. I have nothing to hide, she told me. You can look through it if it helps. She even smiled when she said it. I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe she finally gets it. Maybe we really can rebuild from this. But of course I looked. And of course, it all fell apart again. The chats I found weren't just incriminating. They were a revelation. It was like pulling back a curtain and finding a stranger behind it. She'd been lying to me for nearly our entire relationship. 8 years of omission, manipulation, deception. I always knew she had a tendency to withhold things, to twist facts to make herself look better or avoid confrontation, but what I saw went beyond that. This wasn't someone who occasionally told white lies. This was a pattern. This was pathology. I've always had a hard line about alcohol and smoking. When we started dating, she told me she'd quit both. That she respected my stance, that she wanted a healthy life with me, that she was done with that part of her life. And I believed her. For years, I believed her. Turns out she never quit. Not really. Any time I was away, especially during the war, she was getting drunk. Sometimes alone, sometimes with friends. Sometimes with him. She lied straight to my face about it, over and over again. Not out of temptation or addiction, but because she wanted to live 2 lives. The life where she was the good wife who stood by her husband, and the other life, the real one where she could drink and party and make her own rules as long as I wasn't watching. And then I found out about her living situation when she first left the country. She told me she was staying with a female friend. Someone from college, she said. Someone safe. Someone who could help her settle in with the kids. But that was a lie too. She was living at his house. With his wife. With his children. Sleeping under the same roof. Every night. I can't explain what that did to me. I sat there holding that phone in my hands like it was a grenade. Reading message after message, lie after lie, trying to make sense of how someone I loved so much could be so entirely false. Like I'd spent the last decade loving a hologram. A carefully constructed version of a person that never actually existed. And yet, she says she loves me. She says she always has. That she lied because she didn't want to lose me. That she didn't know how to be honest and still be loved. She says she regrets everything. And I believe that in some twisted way she really does. We've had long, agonizing conversations, hours spent on video calls late at night while she sobs into her hands, collapsing under the weight of it all. She's started therapy. She says she's trying to understand herself, to change, to rebuild what she destroyed. But I sit there on those calls and feel nothing. No relief. No closure. Just this heavy, sickened emptiness in my chest that never goes away. Because the truth is, I don't trust her. And I don't respect her. I can't anymore. It's not about punishment or holding grudges. It's about something deeper. Something fundamental that snapped in me. When trust dies, it doesn't go quietly. It echoes. It haunts. It colors everything. Now I question every word. Every story she tells. Every tear she sheds. I wonder what else I haven't discovered. What else she's deleted. Was it really just emotional? Was it physical too? Was she still meeting up with him during the years she had our children? Did she lie to me on the days I was burying friends? There's no way to know for sure. She deleted the chat history. The records are gone. Wiped. She says she did it because she wanted to move on, not because she had anything to hide. But the timing, the vagueness, the gaps in her memory, they all say otherwise. And when you're living with someone who's proven they can lie so effortlessly, your imagination becomes your worst enemy. I obsess. I can't stop replaying things in my head, old conversations, inconsistencies, little red flags I ignored at the time. It's like my brain is trying to retroactively solve a puzzle, to reconstruct the truth from fragments. I lie awake at night connecting dots, searching for hidden meanings, wondering if I ever really knew her at all. The worst part is, this obsession has infected everything. I can't focus at work. I can't concentrate. I drift during conversations. I second-guess my instincts. The other day, I caught myself scrutinizing a perfectly normal message she sent me, convinced there was a double meaning behind a single emoji. It's ridiculous. But I can't help it. I'm unraveling. And yet, I haven't walked away. Because of the kids. I want them to have a family. I want them to grow up with both parents, not shuttling between houses, not waking up to empty seats at the table. I want them to know love and stability, even if I have to fake it. Even if I have to grit my teeth and pretend we're okay when we're not. But that's its own kind of lie, isn't it? I'm living in limbo, holding on to something I no longer believe in because I'm afraid of what happens if I let go. And every day, I ask myself the same questions. Is this salvageable? Do people really change? Am I strong enough to stay? Or cowardly enough to never leave? Sometimes I look at her and feel a flicker of the person I used to love. I see her smile at our children, or brush a strand of hair behind her ear, or cry when she talks about her regrets, and for a moment I think, maybe. But then I remember the lies. The phone clutched in her hand while I lay beside her. The silence during the months I was at war. The way she deleted everything before I could see it. The nights she was drinking in his company while telling me she was struggling alone. The house she shared with him, under a roof that I paid to protect. And that flicker dies. All that's left is this dull ache in my chest. This constant feeling that something beautiful has died, and I'm the only one standing at the gravesite. I don't know what comes next. I'm still here. For now. But I'm not sure how much longer I can keep pretending that love and loyalty alone are enough to rebuild something so thoroughly destroyed. Lately, I found myself circling back to one specific thought, one that's been clawing at the back of my mind for weeks, maybe months if I'm being honest. I found her number. The AP's wife. It was almost by accident. A random late-night search, a dive into some dusty corner of the internet where old businesses leave behind old footprints. There it was, her contact info, still up on a barely maintained page from when she ran a small business years ago. A mobile number. Just sitting there. A direct line to the only other person who might know the whole truth. And now I can't stop thinking about it. I haven't called her. I haven't even saved the number in my phone. But I look it up at least once a day, like it holds some kind of power over me. I think about what I would say if I did call. Would I start with an apology? With a question? With a confession? Would I sound like a raving lunatic? Would she hang up, or cry, or confirm all my worst fears? Part of me feels like she deserves to know. If she doesn't already. If their marriage is intact. If she still thinks she's living with an honest man, then isn't she entitled to the same truth I've been chasing in circles for nearly a year now? But that's not the only reason. Selfishly, I want answers. I want someone who was there to tell me what really happened, because all I have right now are puzzle pieces with half the picture rubbed off. I know my wife lied. I know she deleted the chats. I know she was at his house. I know they shared secrets and messages and intimacy, at least emotionally. But was that all? What if it was more? What if the text stopped being flirty not because the affair ended, but because she anticipated this exact situation, me snooping, her needing to prove a clean slate, just in case? What if there were photos or confessions or lines she crossed that I'll never see because they're long gone? What if I'm sleeping beside someone who spent years with a mask on? I keep going back and forth. One strange thing that keeps bugging me, she never blocked him. Never made it definitive. Just silence. She says he stopped contacting her after their last meeting, like it was his decision to end things. But that's another detail that keeps twisting in my stomach. If she truly wanted to be done, if she was trying to prove loyalty to me, to rebuild, why leave the door even slightly open? And if it was him who stopped reaching out, why? Was it guilt? A scandal? Did his wife find out and draw a hard line? Is that why he backed off, because he had more to lose? Or maybe he just lost interest. Maybe my wife became inconvenient. Maybe he'd gotten what he wanted and moved on. The thought makes me sick, but it's possible. And still, here I am, trying to make sense of it all. I go through every possibility, every version of the story, every timeline. Was it really over when our kids were born? Or did it resurface later, when I was distracted or away? Was she really just using him for emotional support during a dark time, or was it physical? Were the kids ever in that house with him? Did they eat dinner together? Watch TV together? Were they playing board games while their parents shared a secret? I don't know. And I hate that I don't know. Because if there's one thing I've learned in all this, it's that not knowing is worse than knowing something awful. At least if I knew, I could grieve it and begin to heal. But this limbo? This constant replaying of versions in my head? It's driving me mad. And the truth is, I'm tired. I'm so unbelievably tired of carrying this alone. Of being the only one awake at 3 a.m. while the person who broke me sleeps peacefully across the country. I have no one to talk to. No close friend who won't judge her. No family member who won't advise me to walk away. No therapist who can give me a clear answer. It's just me, spinning in place, grasping for facts in a fog of doubt. So I think about calling her, the AP's wife. And I don't know if it's revenge I want, or closure, or camaraderie. Maybe all three. Maybe none. I just know I'm desperate for something real. Some proof that I'm not crazy. That I wasn't the only one lied to. That if I'm going to try and rebuild this broken thing we once called a marriage, I'm not doing it with a woman who's still hiding behind half-truths. But then, there's guilt. She, his wife, did help my wife. And, by extension, helped our kids. She took them in. Fed them. Let them sleep under her roof. My kids know her kids. They may have played together, laughed together. What kind of man calls and detonates a bomb in the middle of someone else's home if he's not absolutely sure it's justified? What if I am overreacting? What if it really was an emotional affair that ran its course? What if his wife already knows and they've been through their own healing process in private and I would just be tearing open old wounds for no reason? What if she's completely innocent and I bring down her life because I needed answers that weren't mine to demand? There's shame in that. There's a kind of ungratefulness, too. Because no matter what happened between my wife and her husband, she helped my family when I couldn't. And if I'm wrong, if I jump to conclusions and ruin her marriage for nothing, that would be a sin I don't think I could live with. So, I do nothing. I stare at her number in silence. I rehearse conversations in my mind. I type and delete messages I'll never send. I stay in this in-between space, too scared to move in either direction. Too tired to fight. Too broken to walk away. And the worst part is, I still want to try. I still want to rebuild my family. Not because I believe everything she tells me. Not because I've forgiven her. But because I want our kids to grow up in a world where both parents are under one roof. I want them to remember love, even if I have to manufacture it. I want them to feel safe. I want to believe that maybe, with enough time and work and brutal honesty, we could find something worth saving in the rubble. But I can't do that unless I know the whole truth. And I don't know if I ever will. So here I am, living in the shadows of a story I didn't choose. Holding the weight of someone else's secrets. Trying to decide whether to shatter someone else's world to fix my own. Some days, I'm so sure I'll make the call. Other days, I think I already know enough. But every day, I feel just a little more lost. Any advice would help me so much. How can I show proofs to the AP's wife and leave my wife and fight for kids in court? I think it's time to think as loving guy who've been fool for these 8 years. How can I take revenge on her?